In Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, the golden autumn sun casts a dignified glow over the marble courtyard of the Palace of Nations. The air carries both ceremony and symbolism, a choreography of military precision and political messaging. As the Tajik honor guard stands in formation, the national anthems of Russia and Tajikistan echo across the plaza. Cameras flash, capturing the moment Russian President Vladimir Putin steps onto the red carpet to greet his host, President Emomali Rahmon. The two leaders shake hands firmly, a gesture meant to convey friendship, reliability, and mutual trust. This visit marks a significant chapter in the evolving relations between Moscow and Dushanbe. It is October 2025, more than 3 decades since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and Central Asia remains a contested arena where Russia, China, and increasingly Europe all compete for influence. For Putin, this trip to Tajikistan is not merely a ceremonial state visit, it is a reaffirmation of Russia's enduring role as a security guarantor and strategic partner to its southern neighbours. For Rahmon, it is an opportunity to secure Moscow's continued economic and military support amid growing regional uncertainty. The two leaders stand side by side as the troops march past, a tableau that harkens back to the old Soviet parades, yet carries a distinctly modern message: continuity amid change. Putin's demeanour is composed, deliberate, his gaze steady as the Tajik military unit sings in salute. Rahmon, dressed in a dark navy suit, exudes his characteristic firmness, a man who has led his country for more than 30 years and navigated its post-Soviet transformation with a careful blend of pragmatism and control. The welcoming ceremony concludes with another handshake, longer this time, performed for the cameras. Both men smile, but beneath the diplomacy lies a complex network of interests: military bases, migrant labour, trade routes, and energy supplies, all threads that bind Tajikistan's stability to Russia's broader geopolitical agenda. Inside the ornate palace, the two delegations sit down for formal talks. Ornate carpets, gold-framed portraits, and the soft hum of translators fill the room. Putin begins his remarks with a tone of reassurance. He praises the strength of bilateral relations, emphasizing that what the world sees externally truly reflects the essence of the partnership. The substance of our relations corresponds with the external impression, Putin declares, his words calm yet deliberate. We fulfill all agreements and all our fundamental goals laid down in the 1993 Friendship Treaty. It is a reference to the foundational document that codified Russian-Tajik cooperation after the Soviet breakup, a treaty that has since underpinned everything from border defence to joint infrastructure projects. The symbolism of mentioning it here in Dushanbe 3 decades later is not lost on anyone. It is Putin's way of reminding both allies and competitors that Russia's commitments in the region are not transient. Rahmon nods as Putin speaks, his expression thoughtful. For him, the 1993 treaty was more than diplomacy. It was a lifeline that helped stabilize Tajikistan after years of brutal civil conflict. Even today, thousands of Russian troops remain stationed at the 201st military base near Dushanbe, a key installation that Moscow uses to project power across Central Asia. That presence, Putin insists, is not just about defense, it is about reliability. In the field of security and defense, Putin continues, we are working continuously, bearing in mind the difficult situation that is developing in the region. We are reliable allies, and Russia wants to cherish and will certainly fulfill all our allied obligations. Those words, broadcast on Tajik national television, are aimed as much at the domestic audience as at the wider world. They come at a time when regional security dynamics are shifting rapidly. Afghanistan, Tajikistan's southern neighbour, remains unstable after years of Taliban rule. Border tensions have flared intermittently, and the threat of extremism and drug trafficking looms large. For Rahmon, Russia's security guarantees are crucial. For Putin, Tajikistan serves as a strategic outpost, a buffer zone between Russia and the volatile southern frontier. As the talks progress, both sides discuss economic and cultural cooperation, emphasizing trade, education, and labor migration. More than 1 million Tajik citizens currently work in Russia, sending home remittances that make up a significant portion of Tajikistan's GDP. Moscow, in turn, relies on these ties to maintain influence. The leaders speak of new infrastructure projects, hydropower, rail links, digital connectivity, all framed as examples of mutually beneficial cooperation. Yet beneath the surface, there is quiet tension. China's economic presence in Central Asia has grown dramatically through its Belt and Road Initiative, funding highways, pipelines and power plants. For Tajikistan, this brings opportunity, but also debt. For Russia, it brings competition. The Kremlin's challenge is to maintain its status as the region's primary political and security patron, while accepting that Beijing's economic gravity is pulling the region eastward. Outside the palace, Dushanbe's streets are lined with banners welcoming the Russian president. Billboards display slogans of unity and friendship. But among ordinary citizens, opinions are mixed. Some see Russia as a protector, a country that helped Tajikistan maintain peace and stability. Others view it as a power that still sees Central Asia through the lens of empire. Local analysts note that the balance of power is changing and that Moscow must adapt its approach if it wants to remain relevant. During a joint press conference that follows the closed-door talks, both leaders appear before the cameras once more. Putin reiterates his vision of Eurasian solidarity, a phrase he often uses to frame Russia's partnerships with post-Soviet states. Rahmon, in turn, expresses gratitude for Moscow's consistent support in security and defense cooperation. Our countries share a history, a friendship, and a future of mutual respect, he says, emphasizing the continuity of the relationship. Journalists note that this visit carries particular weight because it comes 3 years after the last Central Asia-Russia summit, a gathering that ended awkwardly when Rahmon delivered a 7-minute tirade, demanding that Russia show more respect toward the smaller former Soviet republics. That speech, widely shared across social media, became a symbol of Central Asia's growing assertiveness. Today, however, the tone is more measured. If there were frustrations lingering beneath the surface, they have been set aside, at least publicly, in favor of a message of unity. Diplomatic observers say this reflects a broader reality. Central Asia's leaders are recalibrating their relationships with Russia, not abandoning them. In the wake of global realignments, from Western sanctions to shifting trade routes, Moscow's regional diplomacy has taken on renewed urgency. By emphasizing mutual respect and equality, Putin is attempting to present Russia not as an imperial power, but as a reliable ally in an increasingly unstable world. As the evening light fades over Dushanbe, the two presidents leave the palace for a formal dinner. Behind closed doors, discussions continue about investment in energy infrastructure and joint counter-terrorism exercises. Tajik officials emphasize their desire for more Russian investment in transport and hydropower projects. Russian negotiators, meanwhile, push for easier conditions for Russian businesses and expanded use of the ruble in bilateral trade. The symbolism of the visit extends beyond bilateral issues. Putin's presence in Tajikistan is also a message to other Central Asian states, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, that Moscow remains a committed and active partner. The next day's regional summit will bring all five together, with Putin seated at the center of the round table, flanked by leaders who, though diverse in policy and temperament, all share deep historical ties with Russia. For the Kremlin, this is about reinforcing the image of Moscow as the gravitational center of the region. Yet the realities of the modern world are complex. China's influence grows each year, both through investment and through cultural exchange. The European Union, too, has been quietly expanding its economic footprint, offering alternative partnerships on trade, energy transition and connectivity. Putin's speech in Dushanbe, therefore, must do more than recall old friendships. It must redefine them for the 21st century. In his closing remarks, Putin strikes that balance. He praises Tajikistan's stability and leadership, commends Rahmon's decades of service, and promises that Russia will continue to be a steadfast friend and reliable ally. His tone is both personal and strategic, a statesman addressing not only a partner, but an entire region watching closely. Outside, as night falls, the Dushanbe skyline glows softly with new construction projects funded by foreign investment. Russian and Tajik flags flutter side by side. On state television, the broadcast cuts between images of the leaders shaking hands and commentaries from political analysts discussing the implications of the visit. One commentator notes that, in a world where alliances are shifting rapidly, Russia's promise of reliability carries both reassurance and responsibility. For many in Central Asia, this visit is more than symbolism. It is a reminder of how deeply intertwined the region's fate remains with Moscow's. Whether through energy grids, military bases, or shared borders, the legacy of cooperation and dependency continues. And as global power centers tilt and realign, both Russia and Tajikistan are trying to navigate their paths forward without losing the past that binds them. By the time the delegation departs, the message is clear. Russia and Tajikistan, in Putin's words, are reliable allies. Yet the question that lingers, unspoken but inevitable, is how long such reliability can endure in a world where alliances, like empires, are constantly being reshaped by time and circumstance.
Наше движение по всем направлениям в будущем, планы сверстать определенные.
Правда, что наши отношения имеют положительную динамику развития.
The substance of our relations corresponds with the external impression. We fulfill all agreements and all our fundamental goals laid down in the 1993 Friendship Treaty.
Фундаментальные наши цели заложены еще в договоре о дружбе 1993 года. Действительно, в области безопасности, обороны.
In the field of security and defense, we are working continuously, bearing in mind the difficult situation that is developing in the region. We are reliable allies, and Russia wants to cherish and will certainly fulfill all our allied obligations.
Россия дорожит и, безусловно, будет выполнять все союзнические наши обязательства.